So live from an undisclosed location with the sultry filter on. Very sultry filter on.
Yeah.
Having a great hair day.
Yeah, that is a good hair day for you.
Great hair day. My pal and your favorite CEO and Twitterer, Mr. Elon Musk. How you doing, pal?
Hey.
David Sack.
We open source it to the fans, and they've just gone crazy with it.
Love you, guys. Queen of Kinwa. Appreciate you coming to the event and zooming in.
Yeah.
What's new in your world?
Well, let's see. I guess right now I'm sort of debating the number of bots on Twitter. With Parag on Twitter, currently, I'd like what I'm being told is that there's just no way to know the number of bots. It's like as unknowable as the human soul, basically.
So
you have no idea what level of witchcraft and alchemy is needed to determine this bot percentage.
Have you determined?
I said, like, why not try calling people? But I haven't got a response. You know, like, if you tried calling people or something, you know, like maybe try
the
that.
Answer? It's not a bot.
No, I don't know. But I think like that would be one of the things to do, to say, like, have you tried calling them, as opposed to like trying to read the tea leaves here? That's like impossible, you know. Obviously, you can have an account that looks exactly like a human account, or is being operated where one person is operating 1,000 accounts or something. But that person can only buy one toaster. They're not going to buy 1,000 toasters. So you care about like number of unique, real people that are on the system. It's extremely fundamental. And anyone who uses Twitter is well aware that the comment threads are full of spam, scam, and just a lot of, you know, fake accounts. So it seems beyond reasonable for Twitter to claim that the number of essentially the number of said another way, the number of real unique humans that you see making comments on a daily basis on Twitter is above 95%. That is what they're claiming. Does anyone have that experience? Exactly.
I mean,
really? Listen, like, there's a bridge I'd like to sell you. You know, you know, and also you can buy the Brooklyn Bridge.
What do you think it is?
What's the I mean,
if it's not 5%, what is it?
I think it's some number that is probably at least 4 or 5 times that number. I'd say if you did sort of the lowest estimate would be probably 20%. And this is a bunch of quite smart outside firms have done analysis of Twitter and looked at the sort of daily users, and their conclusion is also about 20%, but that's a lower bound. It's not an upper bound. Mm-hmm. If you look at, say, the most liked tweets on Twitter, so I have the honor of having the most liked tweet of any living human. This is thank you everyone for liking my tweet, including you, some of the bots out there. But that tweet is less than 5 million likes. It's like 4.7 or something like that. And that was where I tweeted about that next time buying Coca-Cola to put the cocaine back in. It's clearly something that the public really wants, and you know, Coca-Cola Corporation should really think about going back to their roots. You know, some OG Coca-Cola. I mean, this I guess is the reason why our grandparents could sort of walk 20 miles in the snow, because they had Coca-Cola with cocaine. This is the real reason. So. anyway, that is literally the most popular tweet of any living human. But Twitter says that the sort of monetizable daily active users is 217 million. So why would it be that the most popular tweet ever basically is only 2.5% of the entire user base? This seems a very, very low number. And the most popular tweets generally are clustered around that sort of 4 million like level. So it's sort of call it like basically 2% or less than 2% of the daily active users. And technically monetizable daily active users is how Twitter refers to it. So it just seems, how is this possible? Surely there's something that maybe 10% of people would like, not merely 2%.
Well, actually, if you think about it, Elon, there's a corollary on YouTube. What's the total user base of YouTube, and what have the most popular videos gotten there?
Yes.
And I think there's a billion or two, maybe a billion people using YouTube, and the most popular videos have tens of billions of views.
Yes.
So that might be instructive.
Exactly. That ratio makes a lot more sense. So something doesn't add up here. And my concern is not that, is it like, is it 5 or 7 or 8%, but is it potentially 80% or 90% bots?
Yeah.
Is it, I mean, I certainly know there's some real people on Twitter, but is it an order of magnitude? Is it 50% instead of 5? And that's obviously an incredibly material number, especially since Twitter relies primarily on brand advertising as opposed to specific click-through advertising where you make a purchase. If you make a purchase, it doesn't really matter that much. But for brand advertising, which is really just awareness advertising, it matters if real humans are seeing that or not.
Yeah, and so I guess stepping back for a second, people are curious why you want to buy Twitter. Why is this so important to you? And then I guess, what are the chances you think the deal gets done at this point? So a two-parter. Why is it so important to you?
I mean, some of this I've articulated before, but I think there's a need for a public town square, digital town square that where people can debate issues of all kinds, including the most substantive issues. And in order for that to be the case, you have to have something that is as broadly inclusive as possible, that has as much of the people on the platform as possible, where it feels balanced from a political standpoint. It's not biased one way or the other, and where the system is transparent. This is why I think it's important to put the algorithm on GitHub and actually allow the public to see it and critique it and improve it. And if there are any manual changes, sort of shadow banning as it's called, or increasing or decreasing the prominence of a tweet, that's done manually, that should be noted, so you know what has happened. And it's not just, you're just where it is right now, where you don't know what the heck is going on. Why is one tweet doing well? Why is another tweet not? Is it the algorithm? Did someone manually intervene? Why are some accounts banned? With no recourse, apparently. The reality is that Twitter at this point, has a very far left bias. And I would classify myself as a moderate, and neither Republican nor Democrat. And in fact, I have voted overwhelmingly for Democrats historically, overwhelmingly. Like I'm not sure. I might never have voted for a Republican, just to be clear.
Right.
Now this election, I will.
Well, David, you okay?
Keep going. He's fine. We're going to resuscitate him.
We're going to resuscitate David Sachs. I mean, let me ask you a personal question.
The point I'm trying to make is that this is not some sort of attempt to, it's not some right-wing takeover, as say people on the left may fear, but rather a moderate-wing takeover, and an attempt to ensure that people of all political beliefs feel welcome on a digital town square, and they can express their beliefs without fear of being banned or shadow banned. and that we obviously need to get rid of the bots and scams and trolls and people that are operating huge bot armies in an attempt to unduly influence the public opinion. So this is what I think it's very important that we have that. Like some of the smartest people in history have thought about it and said, like, free speech is important for a healthy democracy. It is important, and free speech only matters. Like say, when does free speech matter most? It's when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like. Yeah. That's when it actually matters. Obviously, and it's pretty annoying when someone you don't like says something you don't like. That's bad, but it's actually a good sign of that you have free speech. I get trashed by the media all the time. It's fine. I don't care. Go do it twice as much. I couldn't care less. But it's indicative of the fact that even though I have like a lot of resources, I do not actually have the ability to stop the media from trashing me, and that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I have to ask, with regard to this current administration, I know how hard you work on the car company, and then Biden, you've been a lifelong Democrat. You've donated to Obama and to everybody, probably never voted Republican. And yet, and the same is true for Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is, a Bernie Sanders supporter. And that the Democratic Party has been openly hostile to Joe Rogan. And Biden can't even say the word Tesla or invite you to the White House when they do an EV summit. I'm curious, just on a very personal basis, what does it feel like to have that experience where the party you supported won't even say the name of your company or invite you there? They should be celebrating the work you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like this is not right. Like this is the issue here is that there's just the Democratic Party is overly controlled by the unions and by the trial lawyers, particularly the class action lawyers. And generally, if you'll see something that is not in the interest of the people, on the Democrat side, it's going to come because of the unions, which is just another form of monopoly, and the trial lawyers. That's where actions will be happening from the Democrat side. They're not in the interest of the people. And then, to be fair, on the Republican side, there's if you say like where there's something like not ideal happening, it's because of corporate evil and religious zealotry. That's generally where the bad things will be coming from on the Republican side, that are not representative of the people. So. In the case of Biden, he is simply too much captured by the unions, which was not the case with Obama. So in the case of Obama, you could have, he was sort of quite reasonable, and I think he took more of a view that, obviously you need to take the concerns of the unions into account, but there are bigger issues at stake, and unfortunately, Biden does not do that.
Elon, I have a Tesla question. I read today, it's incredible. There was a Bloomberg article that said the following. So the setup is this. It said, since you went public, Tesla's up 22,000%, 11 quarters of sequential profitability. So hitting on all cylinders. But the public analyst...
We had cylinders.
That's a car joke. That's a combustion.
Firing, we're stepping on the gas pedal, firing in all cylinders. Turbocharged.
But analysts, when they put out their projections, okay, it's one of the most enormous bans for any company in America. The price targets for Tesla, despite all of this success, some have it at 200, some have it at 1,600. It's all over the place. You tweeted a couple months ago, Tesla's not a company. It's like 6 companies inside of a company. Like you've had to build this. Yeah, maybe more. Can you just explain to people all these companies inside this super company, just so folks have a sense of what had to be done to get here?
Okay. I mean, this question requires thought, and I'll probably be leaving out quite a few things. But if you look at, say, what does a typical car company do? What they do is they assemble vehicles and they send them to dealers, and they manage the supply chain. They might make the engine, or typically will make the engine, but most of the parts are made by suppliers. And a lot of the actual technology development is done by suppliers, and most of this vehicle software is done by suppliers. So the actual amount of real work done by car companies, what you think of sort of like a GM or Ford, is not actually that much. So they don't do sales, they don't do service. So in the case of Tesla, for example, we do our own sales and service. We don't have dealerships. Then Tesla also has by far the biggest network of superchargers, sort of the electric equivalent of gas stations. So we built an entire global supercharger network, which is still the most advanced and by far the best way to charge your car when traveling long distance, or if you live in a city and don't have the ability to charge your car because of street parking or an apartment. So the whole supercharger network, we developed the supercharger network, we deployed it. I think we have 15,000 superchargers globally. You can travel anywhere in America right now with the Tesla supercharger network. Then, in terms of vertical integration, we make the battery pack, the power electronics, the drive unit. We actually make, we're more integrated in the parts. We actually make so much of the car internally. We're vertically integrated, not necessarily because we think that there's some religious reason to be vertically integrated, but because the pace at which we needed to move was just much faster than the supply chain could move. And to the degree that you inherit the legacy supply chain, you inherit the legacy constraints, including their speed, cost, and technology. And then Tesla is as much a software company as it is a hardware company. So the software that runs in Tesla operates the car, operates the screen, does the charging. All of that stuff is developed by Tesla. And so we have sort of a Tesla OS in the car. I could go on for a long time. And then very importantly, Tesla has built an autopilot AI team from scratch. That is the best real-world AI team on Earth. And if anyone else has got a better one, I'd like to see it demonstrated in a car. The full self-driving beta at this point can very often take you with zero interventions across the Bay Area from San Jose to Marin. So through complex traffic, it's really quite sophisticated. And I invite anyone to join the beta or look at the videos of those who are in the beta. We've got like 100,000 people in the beta, so it's not tiny. And we'll be expanding that to, I don't know, probably a million people or a million, I don't know, so on that order by the end of the year. So it's...
you had this slide.
We also built a chip team because there wasn't hardware that we could run the friggin' AI on. We couldn't just fill the trunk with a whole bunch of GPUs. Because they would have taken a trunk full of GPUs that would have been very expensive and take massive amount of power and cooling just to be able to do what the Tesla designed full self-driving computer can do. So, and we started a chip team from scratch, designed it. It was the best in the world and still is the best in the world several years later. And we're also then we're designing a Dojo supercomputer to be able to process all the video that's coming in from billions of miles of data, because just sort of like the way that it's very difficult to compete with Google because they have so much data and they have all this people doing searches all the time and humanity is training it. But the same is true of Tesla. You really need billions of miles and ultimately tens of billions of miles of training data combined with a sort of a vast training computer and then optimize inference hardware in the car and state-of-the-art AI and training and specialized software across the board to be able to achieve a full self-driving solution.
I just want, when he opened Tesla Gigafactory, remember this 6 or 7 years ago? I'll just tell the audience the story quickly, Elon. He puts a slide up there and he says, guys, we're not actually building a factory, we're building a machine that makes machines. And he puts the layout of the factory and it looks like a chip. And it was basically like how you would actually lay out a microchip if you were, or you were like a layout engineer. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And I was like, that was when I first got it. Yeah. You walk on 10 and you see what's happening.
And you have an insurance company now. You're doing insurance for Tesla owners.
And an Uber competitor.
Right. And eventually a robo-taxi Uber competitor, RIP.
Yeah, I mean, insurance is like quite significant.
Now, are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Because the car insurance thing is a bigger deal than it may seem. A lot of people are paying, 30-40% as much as their lease payment for the car in car insurance. So the car insurance industry is incredibly inefficient because they're just first of all, you got like so many sort of middle entities. You've got from the insurance agent all the way to the final sort of reinsurer. There's like a half a dozen companies each taking a cut, and then it's all very statistical. So that there's even if you're a very good driver, like you could be like 20 years old and a great driver, but it's all statistical. So you either can't get insurance or it's extremely expensive. But Tesla allows for real-time insurance based on how you actually drive the car. You can actually, if you drive the car in a safer way, you actually have lower insurance. So ours is insurance is based on how you actually drive, not how historically people that fit your whatever demographic have drive. And then you can close the loop around your insurance rate by simply driving better and looking at your score and lowering your insurance in real time. And people do it. Actually promotes safer driving.
I actually have had this experience because in my household, 2 people drive my car, and one of them has a 93 score and the other one does not. They have like a 60 score. And you may have met this other person, but I've been trying to work with her on the aggressive turns and stops in advance of our insurance bill, which we're hoping will go down at some point. The one question, is this Twitter deal going to get closed, do you think? What are the chances here?
Well, I mean, it really depends on a lot of factors here. I'm still waiting for some sort of logical explanation for the number of sort of fake or spam accounts on Twitter, and Twitter is refusing to tell us. This just seems like a strange thing.
Wait, sorry, are they refusing to tell you, or you don't think they really know? I mean, there's a good chance they may just have no idea.
They claim that they do know.
Yeah.
And they claim that they've got this complex methodology that only they can understand.
But the guy who landed 2 rockets simultaneously
when you do the witch's brew, you stir this cauldron, and then you throw the knuckle bone, and
double,
Cogsworth,
toil and trouble.
Spell, and then suddenly it comes to you in a dream. I don't know. But there should be some objective way to assert the thing, because this is a material public statement.
Threshold issue, yeah.
It's a material adverse misstatement. If they in fact have been vociferously claiming less than 5% of fake or spam accounts, but in fact it is 4 or 5 times that number, or perhaps 10 times that number, this is a big deal. It's not this. It's sort of like if you said, okay, I agree to buy your house. You say the house has less than 5% termites. That's an acceptable number. But if it turns out it is 90% termites, that's not okay. It's not the same house. This house is made mostly of termites. Termites leave. Your house will disappear because it's mostly made of termites. That would obviously just not be appropriate. So in making the Twitter offer, I was obviously reliant upon the truth and accuracy of their public filings. And if those filings are not accurate, it's simply not. It's not. You can't pay the same price for something that is much worse than they claimed.
And they say, Elon, life's a negotiation. So at a different price, it might be a totally viable deal. Correct?
I mean, it's not out of the question. Okay. But I really would, this is, the more questions I ask, the more my concerns grow. So, at the end of the day, acquiring it has to be fixable, and fixable, with reasonable time frame and without revenues collapsing along the way and all that sort of stuff. And so, I really need to see how these things are being calculated, and it can't be some deep mystery that is like more complex than the human soul or something like that. It's got to be, I think we can apply the scientific method to this and try to figure out what's really going on. And Twitter's revenue is primarily dependent, I think 70% or some of that order, on brand advertising as opposed to specific purchase advertising. This is a big deal because brand advertising is not, there's not a purchase that results from that. So it's basically, how much mind share, or like basically if you're a big company, how often do they hear your name? It's as opposed to something where you can directly measure the outcome. So that means that they're somewhat going on faith. And if that faith is undermined or reduced because of the reality of the situation coming to the fore, then Tesla's revenue, or Twitter, start with a T, Twitter's revenue will be significantly impaired. And that's a major problem.
Elon, did you have a chance to ask these questions during your negotiation?
Like I said, I was reliant upon their public filings. So to the degree that they're public, and this is normal for a public company, if you make a formal filing, that is what investors are relying on, whether they are making an acquisition offer or simply buying some shares. So the accuracy of these filings is important, whether you're buying one share or the whole company. And so if these filings are inaccurate, or if they're sort of potentially blatant, it's a big deal.
Elon, do you have a sense of why this has been such a persistent problem for Twitter? Do they not have the technical capabilities to solve the bot problem? Or is it more of like just they've under-prioritized the issue or been unwilling to because potentially there are implications for ad revenue?
I don't know. It's sort of speculative at this point. So the worst interpretation would be that they don't want to look too closely at the thing because they might not like the answer. That would be the worst interpretation. I'm not sure what the best interpretation is, but the least bad interpretation would be maybe they thought it was this way, but the way they were doing it was wrong, and they didn't realize they were mistaken and simply weren't paying enough attention. It does seem as though it should be a lot easier to get rid of the bots and spam and trolls than this is not we're not trying to split the atom here, we're not trying to get to the moon, okay? We're just trying to limit the amount of obviously scammy accounts. If it's like Bitcoin giveaway, probably it's a spammer, it does. Maybe,
Wait, you're not giving away 100 Bitcoin? I just sent you 10 ETH.
If you send me 2 Bitcoin, I'll send you 1 back. All right, that's my.
What if I send you 20? Actually, I thought one of the interesting things that came up in your product roadmap, or I guess this was released and people covered it, was the possibility of Twitter becoming kind of a super app with payments included, maybe perhaps even Doge or something. This seems to me, based on your work with David at PayPal, like a pretty brilliant idea. What's the vision there in terms of if you were able to buy it, perhaps at the right price? What would it look like if I could at Jason to at Elon Musk, $10 or something if we were splitting a check or something?
Sure. Well, for those that have used WeChat, I think WeChat's actually a good model. If you're in China, it's basically, you kind of live on WeChat. It does everything. It's sort of like Twitter plus PayPal plus a whole bunch of other things and all roll into one with actually a great interface. And it's really an excellent app. And we don't have anything like that outside of China. So I think such an app would be really useful. And just like the utility of it, of sort of a spam-free thing where you can make comments, you can post videos, you can, I think it's important for content creators to have a revenue share. Now this does not need to be done on Twitter. It could be done from something that's created from scratch. So it could be something new. So really, but I think this thing needs to exist, whether it is converting Twitter to be the sort of like kind of all-encompassing app that, like I said, everything from digital town square where important ideas are debated, maximally trusted and inclusive, and at a point at which you sort of have a high trust situation, then payments, whether it's crypto or fiat, can make a lot of sense. We just want something that's incredibly useful and that people love using. But it's either convert Twitter to that or start something new. Those are the two. But it does need to happen somehow.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because the price of Twitter is pretty high, and you've built a couple of companies, and some engineers like to come work for you, and you've now gone through the intellectual exercise of studying all this. If you're looking at the two choices now, fixing Twitter given all these problems, and maybe just starting your own version, which one are you leaning towards? Because I have watched you build a couple of companies, and the products have turned out pretty good. So is it easier for someone like you to just start from scratch? I mean,
it's certainly my default inclination is to start things from scratch. I'm not really, I don't buy things. Like there's still this sort of, like SpaceX was started from scratch. In the case of Tesla, it was like 5 people. There's still this guy, Mark Eberhard, who's the worst guy I've ever worked with, who tries to claim like sole credit essentially for creating Tesla. And if he's so damn great, why didn't he just go, create another car company when he was fired? But anyway,
that's a pretty good story.
Yeah.
I remember,
because he's assassin.
I remember having this conversation with you. We were having a conversation about the Roadster. I think I can tell this story.
Yeah.
And I said, "How's it going, pal?" And you said, "Well, I got one problem. It turns out the Roadster parts and putting it together cost $190,000."
Yeah.
And I said, "I gave you $150 for number 16. So if you make 2,000 of these, you're going to lose $80 million." And you were like, "Yeah, or double that." They basically, the parts of the car cost more than they were selling it for when you were starting to get involved. It was disastrous.
No, I got involved well before that.
Well before that, yes.
I got involved when Tesla was nothing but a piece of paper. Let me be crystal clear. Crystal fucking clear. No, they didn't bring me in either. I was gonna start an EV company with JB Straubel. And based on the AC propulsion T0, and when I asked AC propulsion if it was okay to do that, they said, well, there's also some others who want to create an EV company but have not created one yet.
Yes.
Would you like to join forces with them? And I said, okay, well, we'll do that. That was a huge mistake. JB and I should have just started the car company ourselves. Instead, we teamed up with Eberhard, Topping and Wright. Big mistake. The actual moral error here was me trying to have my cake and eat it too, which is like, I just want to work on the technology and the product and have someone else be the CEO and sort of run the business operations, because I just like working on technology and product and design. And also I was like doing SpaceX, at the time, and our rockets were blowing up. So it seemed like, okay, this is like, I always wanted to do an electric car company. This is how I can have my cake and eat it too. That was a huge mistake and fundamentally a moral error. So in the end, I had to friggin' be CEO, and I didn't want to be, basically. But it's either that or the company's going to die. So we started with really just nothing, and the T0 prototype from AC propulsion. That's the precursor to Tesla. To be 100% clear, once again, when we created Tesla, when I joined, there were no employees, there was no intellectual property, there was no prototype, there was no nothing.
Yeah.
To be crystal fucking clear.
And it almost bankrupted you. That sent you to the cliff of insolvency. That was...
Yes, we were on the ragged edge of bankruptcy so many times it was ridiculous. 2008 was one of the worst years, where basically GM and Ford, so GM and Chrysler went bankrupt. Ford almost went bankrupt, and trying to raise money for a startup electric car company in 2008 while GM was going bankrupt was difficult to say the least. People were angry that I even asked them for money. They're like, "Fuck you," and hang up. So the only way that Tesla actually made it through 2008 was a subset of the existing investors, which includes like people like Antonio Gracias and Steve Jurvetson and a few other key people, Ira Ehrenpreis, who I hold a debt of gratitude to this day. And I put in all the money I had left, and they said everything, literally everything. I didn't even have a house, so this is my ex-wife at the house. So I was like staying actually in Jeff Skull's bedroom, spare bedroom. But there was the subset of the investors would say, okay, if they'll put in as much as I put in, so I put in everything, and then we closed that round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible, because after that, people were like breaking for the holidays, and we would have bounced payroll 2 days after Christmas.
It was pretty.
That's doorstep.
I mean, it was an incredible moment in time, and people also forget at the time that the first 2 rockets SpaceX sent up didn't exactly make it to orbit. Like one of them spun out. Right. Yeah, the first 3. And I remember having dinner with you at that time, and I asked you, "Hey, how's it going? I heard Gawker says you got 4 weeks of payroll left." And you said, "That's not true." And I said, "Thank God." And you said, "We have 2." And I said,
no, I mean, both SpaceX and Tesla in 2008, if we'd simply paid our suppliers on time, we would have gone bankrupt immediately.
Tell us actually.
It was a pretty crazy moment in time, because I also remember asking you we were having dinner at BOA, and I said, well, certainly there's got to be some good news. And you took out your BlackBerry to date the conversation. I don't remember it.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, "Don't tell anybody, Jake." I said, "No problem." And you showed me the clay version of the Model S.
Yeah.
The most beautiful car I'd ever seen. And I said, "Oh my God, it's stunning. How much is it going to cost?" You said, "I think I can make it for $50,000. I remember it was yesterday. I said, "If you make that car for $50,000, you'll change the fucking world." And you did it. And
it was a little more than 50,000, but
yeah, you did.
Let's ask about SpaceX.
Okay, well, that's about SpaceX, but I want to ask one more personal question. Has life gotten easier for you as these companies have hit scale, or has the complexity made life even more challenging? Because those early days, it was just fighting to survive. Nobody knew who you were anonymous, and it was really just about the work. And now, let's face it, you're the world's most famous guy, and everybody's watching everything you do, but these companies are also very big. So what's life like for you today? Are you enjoying what you're doing every day?
Well, I mean, it's somewhat of a roller coaster. So there are like good days and bad days, and there are also crisis issues. And, like sort of, knock on wood, like we're not like facing, death in the face. Like it's definitely like quite stressful when like, death is like trying to eat your face off, and like the foam is like, just getting and like, right there, it's pretty stressful in that situation. So like, both SpaceX and Tesla have, significant cash reserves. So like, it's not we're staring death in the face. We can sort of see it over in the horizon, so I don't want to get complacent or entitled, because but if it's not like just sort of foaming at the mouth and gnashing, trying to eat your face off on a daily basis, that's certainly, we've moved on from that point, and hopefully never return. But there are a lot of issues that need to be, it's just like if you're a CEO of a company, the chore level is high. And if you don't do your chores, then the company goes to hell. And I hate doing chores, frankly. So who does? So that's the real, like there's a whole bunch of sort of, personnel issues and legal issues and things that I don't find enjoyable to work on. But if I don't work on them, the company suffers. So it's more like just the sheer volume of work is insane. That's the and then I go add to it with Twitter or something like that. So, I mean, honestly,
on your extra processor.
Yeah, I mean, I have a habit of biting off more than I can chew, and then just sitting there with like chipmunk cheeks.
Tell us, Elon, tell us a little bit about where we are at SpaceX, like how you fund the ability to go to Mars, but then also commercially still build a conventional space business domestically. I think this Russia thing was probably really good for SpaceX. If you want to just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, the goal of SpaceX is to develop the technology that enables life to become multiplanetary and make humanity a spacefaring civilization, which I think is a very exciting, inspiring thing. And it's like one of those things where you can, that I think just makes kids like be excited about the future. And we need things that are inspiring and exciting and make the future seem like it's going to be better than the past. Life can't just be about solving one miserable problem after another. It's got to be like what's inspiring and exciting. And I think that a future where we are a spacefaring civilization is one that we can all get excited about. And we can go out there and find out what's out there in the universe and what's the meaning of life, and where are the aliens, and hopefully they're friendly and that kind of thing. It's interesting. I do get asked about the aliens question a lot, and I've not seen any evidence of aliens. And I'll be the first to tweet about it or whatever if I see something.
I mean, you'll tell us if you find them.
I will tell you. I will definitely tell you if there's aliens. I think it would be quite helpful for like if we found aliens. Like probably SpaceX would get a ton more revenue because people are like, oh man, aliens, we've got to upgrade our space technology pronto. Because what if we're unfriendly? It's like,
is the idea that you build basically the ability to do orbital cargo, take all those profits, launch Starlink, take all those profits, and move it all into building something that can get to Mars? Is that the kind of rough plan?
Yeah, pretty much. It's if there was like a three-slide PowerPoint, it would be pretty much as you described, which is develop rockets that are capable of taking satellites to orbit and crew to the space station. Basically servicing government and commercial space launch needs, and then build a global communication system in space. That obviously it does a lot of good for Earth, but by providing internet connectivity to the least served, because a satellite system is really great for remote locations and countryside or remote islands or places where someone's trying to cut off their internet.
As a prelude to a war, we take down the communication system, like in Star Wars.
Yeah, so it's like, so it can be pretty helpful. Like, I think like Starlink basically, I think is a sort of forceful good in its own right by providing connectivity to the least served, or where they've got either no connection or a very expensive or poor connection. We're connecting a lot of schools, remote schools in Brazil right now. I'm actually going to be headed there to sort of kick things off. But they've got a lot of schools that have no connectivity at all. And in a modern age, how do you learn with no connectivity? I mean, you get, I guess, old textbooks and stuff, but it's really, you're at a huge disadvantage if you have no digital connectivity. So I think there's just a lot of good that Starlink can do just by itself, but then the revenue generated from Starlink is what can enable the creation of a permanently crewed base on the moon, which would be the next step from Apollo, which is like, let's just not go there for a few hours and then head back. Let's have a permanently occupied like science station on the moon. And we could also build some pretty epic telescopes on the moon that would enable us to learn more about the nature of the universe and figure out what's going on and maybe detect those aliens.
Do you think that there's enough profit in those businesses to fund all this, or do you need Wall Street and other investors to come share the load with you?
Is going to Mars a partnership with the government? Does it need to partner with governments to get there?
I Well, I think technically it does not need to partner with governments, but of course, government support would be helpful. It's going to be very expensive to build a self-sustaining city on Mars. Like, in order for us to become multiplanetary in a way that's meaningful, the key threshold is at which point does the city become self-sustaining, such that if the ships from Earth stopped coming for any reason, and it could be any reason, it could be World War III, or it could be just, civilization subsided and just gradually got decrepit or something. But if the ships stop coming, if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming to Mars for any reason, does the city still survive? And that's like really a large base of resources that are needed on Mars. You can't be missing any one critical ingredient. And you can think of this like there are these various great filters, that perhaps stop civilizations. And one of the great filters is, will we become a multi-planet species or not? Will humanity be one of those species that passes the great filter of going beyond one planet and being a multi-planet species? And this is certainly something we'll have to do at some point, because the sun is expanding and will eventually boil the oceans and destroy all life on Earth. So if you care about life on Earth, you should really care about life becoming multiplanetary and ultimately multistellar, because otherwise you're basically saying you're signing the sort of death warrant for all life as we know it. It's inevitable. And then there's also the various things that killed off the dinosaurs if you look at the fossil record, there have been 5 major extinctions that are sort of on the order of 80 to 90% of all creatures on Earth dying for a wide range of reasons. And then humans can also, with the World War III danger that other creatures didn't have, where we could do ourselves in. By sort of misusing advanced technology and sort of just having some radioactive hellhole that's all that's left after World War III. So you could even characterize it potentially as which will come first, World War III or life becoming multiplanetary on Mars.